Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Musical People and Journeys rock show. What is this episode all about? Well, let me quickly explain. Every month we do a what we call a kind of festival rock show where me and my friends, we basically review around about 12 rock albums per month, and we rate them out of 5. And you know, just for fun and just for you guys to see what the latest and the greatest in the rock album world is. However, so it's an hour-long show. So what these shows are, what this one-off show is, to take a single album review for you to listen to, which will be about maybe 10 minutes, and for you to kind of, so if you just want to hear, you know, the latest Ghost album rather than listen to the whole show, then you can have a sample of what we're all about, and hopefully, if you enjoy, you can come back and watch the whole show from start to beginning with all the albums kind of reviewed as well. So I hope you enjoy it. Please like and subscribe our show, and to spread the message about what we do. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this single album review and the actual show itself. Thank you very much. Next on stage is it's Powermetal. It's Fellowship and their album Saberlight Chronicles. Woo! Well, we're a Fellowship, so are we going to be on the same journey together? Because look, I can't help myself. Okay, it's Musical People and Journeys. We're all a journey. It's Fellowship, but are we all on the same path on this one? Paul, tell us a little bit about Saberlight Chronicles and tell us a little about the band Fellowship.
Okay, let's clear a few things before we start. Firstly, the album is based on a fantasy book. However, Fellowship has nothing to do with Lord of the Rings. The fantasy novella, the Saberlight Chronicles, was written by Matthew Corey, the vocalist in the band. And it's a bit, you know, he's a great singer, writes novels, can wear cosplay really well, is one of these multi-talented people that can make you sick. Secondly, this is a power metal band, but they don't hail from Scandinavia or Germany. They're British, and as such, there's been a lot of excitement about them from since their first single, which was released 2 years ago. You might be thinking, here's just another power metal band. I would beg to differ. Fellowship are not as bombastic as bands such as Sabaton or Twilight Force, or as fast and relentless as Dragon Force. They don't rely on over-the-top vocals such as Battle Beast, and they don't rely, more importantly for me, on a drum machine so like many others that we've listened to in the last couple of months. If I was to sum up the Saberlight Chronicles and Fellowship in one sentence, I would have to say that they're the most commercial power band I've listened to. An album that is nearly 1 hour long but feels like 30 minutes is probably the best compliment I can give.
Now, Trish, you do love your power metal.
I do.
So, did this light the way for you?
So, I'm going to repeat something that Paul obviously said, but I'm going to start with, this is a power metal album for the purest of heart. Fellowship are not a Lord of the Rings themed band, even though they look like they've stepped right out of the films. With rousing chorus of Until the Fires Die, this album made me smile listening to it and easily uplifts your spirit. The future of power metal lies in very safe hands.
Ooh, and they're British. Made in Britain, Dave G. Made in Britain. Now you tend not to like your power metal. What did this do for you?
I don't, and I'm quite interested to hear Trish and Paul's comments, because as far as power metal goes, I think I've actually heard a lot better, to be honest. And I don't usually like sort of power metal. And as I say, yeah, I think I've heard a lot better than this. They do seem willing to mix up the tempo, though, which I really, really appreciate, considering most power metal is just one tempo constantly throughout the whole album. Musically, everything I'd expect. Decent level of skill, but just a little bit one-dimensional. As I said, I mean, I'd put here, even for power metal fans, this might disappoint. As far as the genre goes, it does come across as fairly generic, but it seems like everyone else disagrees. So
Yeah, you're entirely wrong. But I would say that it's not. It's certainly not generic. First of all, his voice. Right, his voice is incredibly addictive. I mean, it just has its own uniqueness that isn't quite symphonic and isn't quite your generic kind of power metal either. It's somewhere between, if you like. And I found his voice incredibly addictive. It was something, if I had to try to, because there's a lot of power metals like, try to almost narrate it with their voice by being like in a certain dimension. He doesn't. He just sings, and for some reason, if you had to picture a kind of voice that was bardic but singing kind of fantasy type of power metal, you would try to potentially imagine his voice. I thought his voice was just a little bit unique and absolutely kind of spot on. And if you when you listen to the opening track and the musicality that he puts in there with the different instruments that they put in, Paul's right. There's not a drum synthesizing kind of thing. There's lots of other. I mean, there might be a flute in there. There might be a lot. There's a mixture that makes it almost have that bard-like quality to power metal, which a lot of things do. They just think that they've just got to go bang, hammer it out. And I mean, I was in a song contest, and somebody put a band called Windrose in there, which is all about dwarven hammers, and it was so that sort of shit is totally generic. This is definitely not generic. It wasn't perfect, by the way, in any sense of the imagination, but if you like this sort of genre, it is a little bit different. It isn't as generic as your typical kind of power metal. You picked up his mighty sword and run into the dungeon and hack this kind of thing. There was a bit more flavour to it. There was a bit more storytelling to it. And I loved this guy's voice. And I thought this album, whilst not perfect, was really, 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 really enjoyable. I absolutely loved it. Really good. Cool. Right. Well, surprisingly, Dunnins didn't hate it, and for him, the rating he give it is actually pretty good for him for a power metal anyway. So let's get our mic hot ratings in the glorious chalice. What's it going to be, Paul?
I was kind of on the fence between 4 and 4.5, but I'll give it a 4.
4.5.
Trish? 4.5. Trish, not a 5. Not a 5 to be found. She's getting a bit more harsher with her 5s. You've got to really earn it, people out there. Dave?
I'm going to give it 1.5.
1.5.
I'm just not a fan of power metal. I think I've got to admit at this point, it's just not a genre for me.
You are sick. You need help. We need to go to take you into a power class training camp. 4.5 for me as well. So between me and Trish, we give it 9. Paul 13. Chris, give it a 2.5. So for Chris, 2.5. Right.
God, Dave, you're harsh.
4.
You're turning into Chris.
I know. I think kind of that's 13, 14.5, 15, 17 as well.
I promise there are some high marks to come this month.
Yeah, but not for our beautiful power metal, baby. Don't give a damn on anything else.
Yeah.
Shocking.
If it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't resonate. It's simple as that.
Yeah, it's just not a genre. I have to say that I've ever really connected with. I don't think. So.
Look, as we obviously stated, this is our mic hot rating. This is our cup of tea, and what's interesting is that we're all slightly different and to have different tastes, etc. there as well. So we are moving on, people. Moving on.